Hello everyone, here's today's really amusing piece of history. What we have here is a, let's see if it'll focus, Freedom 110 VT terminal. So this is, obviously I was part of found it in the rubbish. It kind of comes up, but the display doesn't work, and the brightness control doesn't seem to do anything. So I'm fairly confident that the display's gone, which is why presumably it was thrown out, aside from the fact that it's frickin' ancient. Caps lock light comes on. I don't know about the vintage of this. It was presumably 70s, 80s, something like that. You know, it uses the VT, presumably it's a VT110 compatible with regard to the control codes. So it should be full of very interesting vintage electronics. On the back it's, whoops, this is just a 6-pin you know, RJ style jack. It's got 2 serial ports and space for an expansion of some sort. It's a Liberty Freedom, let's see if it'll focus, Freedom 110 video display terminal, BT1410A. You can hear it's actually making an interesting repeated clicking noise, which I wonder if that's like the high frequency, the high voltage power supply not working right at all. I think the first thing I'll actually do is take the monitor apart and then try and shock myself. You know, this is probably about where Dave Jones would talk about how it brings a tear to his eye, but I'm a little less sentimental than he is. Also, this is actually older than I am, I think. So yeah, there we go. Sorry the view's a little strange, but this is actually as wide as the camera will go in its current configuration. As you might be able to make out, this is a different workbench. I've kind of rearranged things. So what I'm going to do is there are 4 Phillips screws holding, I think, the facade on. Unfortunately, this is bulky, so we will just see what we can see. Oops, that's nice. At least they're machine threaded, so they use inserts in the plastic rather than self-threading screws. It's nicely made in that case. Something just came loose. Yeah, so it's not noticeably loosened. But we'll get the screws out. So there's a knob under the side for brightness, but changing it didn't do anything. So I do suspect this screen is not working properly. I'd kind of like to get it running just because I actually have some boxes that I could probably turn console redirection on and actually make it useful. But yeah. Let's see, it's still being retained by something. Oh. Okay, so it actually appears, there we go. So that's really well designed, actually. So it's got like a cover plate that just lifted off. Look at that. Yes, we have bodges, so here's something insulated. Here's a capacitor with the resistor in line, well, or it's a resistor with the capacitor in line with it. High frequency. Here's the high voltage power supply. Some aggressive ground strapping. And here's the tube. There's your, deflection. Here's the brightness knob. And interestingly enough, what appears to be an edge connector. Yeah. That's neat construction. Oops. So that's presumably interconnects all of that. There's not much. All of the signals from the board in the bottom seem to go through this connector. So we have just twisted pair of some sort. This is, I think, coax, or this is some grounding. It's very nicely designed. So there's M center, focus. So these are little trim pots. I'm going to plug it back in and see if I can see something sparking or something. The sound seems to be coming from the transformer. So I think the high voltage transformer is arcing internally. I'm just going by ear, but it definitely sounds like it's coming from the high voltage transformer. So I think the high voltage supply for the display is bad. Maybe the filament in the tube is gone. No, the filament's running. Well, actually, I'm not too sure where the sound is coming from. There's a tunable inductor with lit wire. That's interesting. So this is kind of neat. You can see how this inductor here, let's see if I can get it to focus. So in this inductor here, they're using many strands of finer wire to reduce because they have skin effect issues otherwise. And if you can, let's, so, that's not really working. Can't see the heater running, but I can see the heater going. This is interesting. It's like a hand tightenable thing. Whoa, that's magnetic. Oh, it's a canned inductor with a magnet on the top of it. So that's interesting. So this is, so presumably they're doing that to alter the permissivity of the core by having a pre-applied magnetic field. Sounds kind of like something's arcing inside of something. But I don't really want to poke around with anything other than, you know, a well-insulated screwdriver handle, because some of this is probably high voltage. I wonder if I just... Okay, so that turns everything off. So I just stopped it. I wonder if there's I wonder what the video signals here look like. It might be XY or it might be composite. Oops, oh, that was an interesting sound. It just sounded like the screen charged. Oops. Oh, hello. I hear a high-pitched whining. Ha! I don't know what I did, but it's working now. So, it looks like it was just a bad connection. But now, as you can see, we have a display. Let me move this lamp. So it's saying full duplex at 19.2 kilobaud, 818N, 18N. That's interesting. EDTL, PRC. Let me go. Well, first of all, let's see if it comes back. Okay, so I don't know what happened. It makes one click when it comes up and then it's good. So let's see if the keyboard's hot pluggable. Apparently not. Let's see, setup. Clear home. Yup. Line feed. I do not know how to use this thing. rub out button. One of the buttons on the keyboard is labeled rub out. Let's see, I would think that the setup button would, which is this button right here, would put it into some sort of menu, but it doesn't appear to. Let's try unplugging it. Alright. So it's full duplex EDTL. I don't know what that means. VTs were kind of before my time. But brightness works. So you can see it's kind of blooming a little bit. And then if I turn it down, you can see the discrete scan lines. And the pot's really dirty. Okay, well that's cool. So in this case, I'm actually going to try and get an adapter, but what I will do is take it apart so I can see the interior of the base section. In any event, I think that just slides out. Let me disconnect the keyboard. So I'm not going to poke around up here because this is probably fairly high voltage and I don't feel like shocking myself too strongly tonight. But yeah. So, well, that's an interesting, let's see if we can do that. So looking in there, let's see, it takes a second to come up the temperature. Or maybe the heater was running, oh wait, no, there it goes. See that glow in there? That's the heater. So that's part of the electron gun going. You've got your armature, you know, there's some high voltage crap in the back here, but mostly they'd apply a big positive voltage to the screen and that forces the electrons at the screen. It's interesting, there's like that's glass. Or it's possible they painted over something. You can see some identifying marks down in that corner. Cool. Alright, I'm going to put the top back on and then we'll look in the case. This is fairly interesting. I noticed this when I'm putting it back together. But they've got a very fine mesh screen over the vent holes in the top, presumably because people would drop crap into them and they were worried about that. I mean, these aren't very accessible vents. And there's, you know, it has to kind of go around the corner, but even so, they decided they needed a screen on that for protection. So one of the things you can see here is there's this plate right here, and I bet this is for some sort of extender or additional option that's not installed right now. You've got two serial ports which are in the DB25 and kind of wobbly, high quality construction, and I'm pretty certain that these 4 screws and this whole thing will just slide out. So let's see. Okay, my camera decided to have a nervous breakdown. Anyways, continuing on. These are also nice. Going into brass inserts in the casting rather than using self-tapping screws going straight into plastic. Yeah, that's loose. Alright, so that comes right off. And that is promising. Oh, hello. That's quite nice. Oh, hello. Sync, H-Sync Video V-Sync ground. So I think this is our video signal. And we do have some impressive ground strapping, but it looks like this is designed to slide out. Isn't that nice of them? Oh, I think I have to disconnect a couple of these connectors. Oh yeah. So that looks like that. Oh yeah. So this is line voltage, I think. Oh. No, so this is the connector for the power switch. So then this is a very disgusting and sticky tube, which is the power connection for the monitor, I think. So there's not much in here. I don't know what the expansion port would be for because I don't see how it would even connect. Ugh, it's sticky. There's not much to this, is there? So it's interesting. This is a really early switcher, I think. Probably pretty low frequency too, and wow, that's gotten warm. Okay, let me... There they are. Cut that. Now I should be able to disconnect this. Yep. And then I can kind of push the monitor out of the way. So that's all the way we go. So here's the board. And you can see here's the power supply, which has something to poke with. So these are diodes. So those are, that should date this pretty well. You can see that there's the diode, and then this heatsink is coupled into the diode through that lead. So you can also see that from the board coloration, these have gotten pretty warm. So they may have, you can also see if you look down in here, is that they've got fabric wrapped output leads. And then looking down in here, you can see this board has been pretty well cooked. So I can get on axis with the light a little more. Look at how dark that board is, especially around this resistor. This is probably current limiting of some sort. This is quite neat. Here's the TO3 device, and you can see they've got a board stuck on edge and poking through right here. Look at the beautiful traces. This was done with tape. This was a manual layout. So somebody did this with basically pieces of paper tape on an overhead film, and then they photographically reduce it. So you can see here's your primary, here's the secondary. Presumably this is, you know, your feedback device. I would bet this is earth ground. Which runs over to there. Yeah, okay. So you can see here is, so the power input, well, it's unprotected, which is kind of janky, but the earth ground runs to this metal strapping, and then this metal strap over here runs to this point right here. And that spade lug connects there, so this is indeed earth ground, so the smaller isolation gap here isn't a big deal. But you can see that this is presumably your isolation gap right here. Let's see. So, oh, that's interesting. Look at the topology on this. So the power runs over here and enters here, runs back this way, around that way into the output. That's kind of an interesting topology. So presumably these are your two power input leads, and then I bet this is a common mode inductor right here. Yep, it is. So here's that common mode inductor. You can also see it appears that this is using, it's a feedback, the feedback mechanism is a transformer. Excuse me, so this might predate optos or inexpensive optos, so they're using two transformers. Presumably this is the feedback transformer and this is the main power transformer. And it's also pretty much all discrete. I don't see any ICs. I see, here's a big bridge rectifier. Inductors, presumably these are the bulk caps. What are they? That's nice. Look, it's got high voltage warning on it. So those are 250 volts, 100 mic. They're in nice shape. These tops feel like they're bulging a little tiny bit, but I think that's just because they're old. This power supply is covered by patent. That's patented. Who made this? There's the fuse. It's got a fuse on it, which is nice. 0.1 microfarad. Warning for continued protection against fire hazard. Replace only with same type and rating of fuse F2 to 50 volts. Oh, this is made by Aztec, A-S-T-E-C. So this is a, if you look down in here, you can see this is just presumably a very old off-the-shelf switcher. And here are the output connections. So this one, so they appear to be in parallel. So you can see here's 1, 2, 3. So you have, oh look at that, that's nice of them. 5 volts ground, plus 12, minus 12. But there's some ECL on here somewhere. Oh, also bodge wire. So that right there is a 2N6395. There are no semiconductors on this whole, or excuse me, there are no ICs on this whole system. So look at it. Little inductors. Oh, look at that. So this is negative 12 volts at 0.1 amp, plus 12 volts at 2 amps, plus 5 volts at 2.5 amps. So that's nice of them. It's very well. I'm pretty sure I'm interpreting that right. So there's the specification label. Yep. Focus you. So that's nice of them. And they've even P1, 8, 11, P2, 7, 13. That's nice. They've even provided a pinout. 38 watts max. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So in that situation, this monitor is between 2 and 3. So the monitor, basically the entire display runs off 12 volts. Okay, so the way... I'm starting to see how this works. Oh wow, look at that. Okay, there's a lot of interesting stuff on here. We'll get to the board in a minute. So here's the logic board, if you will. So you can see it's definitely busy. Here's a whole little bodge PCB right here. Crystal. Look at these cute little ferrite beads. They're 2 ferrite beads on a string. So what we have here, this is the keyboard interface. So you can see we have ground KTXD, KRXD, SP, and plus 12 volts. So the keyboard runs on 12 volts. Wow, this is old. So these, I guess they did have optos, because these look like optos, 4N25s. So this is a MC68A45, so this is probably a 6800 series microprocessor. You've got your ROMs, EEPROMs, the old style, bypass caps. Look at the beautiful traces. This board was also all done with tape, I think. Yeah, some of these things, like look at the curvature on these traces. It was almost definitely, this was presumably done by hand. A lot of interesting stuff. Presumably there's an RTC on here somewhere. Look at these little cute little diodes. Probably some sort of charging mechanism. So here's the power input. You can see it's nicely labeled. Axial caps. I don't see those anymore. At least they've got bypass caps and everything. Here's what this bodge wire plugs into here, and this is a 556, something 556. All 7400 series logic. Here's another bodge. It's a 74S32. So that's presumably some sort of RC something going on there. All these transistors are kind of squished. So here's the output to the monitor. You can see you've got, this is H-Sync, video, V-Sync, ground. So you've got all your 2 syncs, and then you've got presumably an analog, which is just the output of the system, the video. Presumably this thing only needs on and off, so you know the video is presumably done by some of these devices in here. 18.432 megahertz crystal. There's a 2N3904, 2N3906. These are just commodity transistors. This is a 2N3904 as well. Yeah, these are all just bog standard off the shelf. I'm pretty sure these are the two. I believe these are the two power devices. This is AM9128 10PC. From the look of it, these are probably RAM or ROM or something along those lines, just because of the way these are, all these four sockets or these four footprints are bussed together. This is an MC68A45P, MC68A02P. I would bet this is presumably RTC related of something. Toshiba, with the old Toshiba label. Just the proximity of these to this to the EEPROM makes me think that. And you've got, you know, EEPROMs. Geez, I don't know who makes this. So here's a Hitachi device. So that's an HD468A050P. So presumably these devices, this section here composes the video generator, or this is, you know, this section here may be the keyboard interface. This board has nothing on the bottom side. It's only a 2-layer board too, which is impressive. It's got Liberty branding on the bottom. Here's the bottom of the board. You can see it's really beautiful. You can see, look at the big heavy power traces. Look at that. What is that? Oh, that's big ground, heavy-duty ground strapping of some sort. Resistors of various size. Yeah, so there you go. So these input ports run, well, let's see, so the video runs yeah, I think these devices R6551AP, R651551AP, these are identical. I wonder what these are. I think this is related to the keyboard. It's probably like a, you know, one makes your old message for the keyboard. This whole frame is quite nice. It's just spot welded together. So there you go. So yeah, all the ground strapping is in here and keyboard interface. So one of the nice things about this is I think I could probably run it outside of the case. But it's definitely, I mean, you can tell from the fact that it's basically designed to slide on these two rails that it's actually designed to be maintainable. It's much better designed than a lot of stuff these days. And then you've got these two flanges here which sit over these screws that hold the whole thing together and also ground the case. You've got little copper. Oops. There's little metal brackets with detents on them that ground everything. And then there's brass inserts in the case. It's very nicely engineered. I just think, you know, this is really interesting. So this is actually labeled IC201. Okay, they're actually, so where this bodge board is an IC footprint that's not stuffed. So then you've got this interesting little, totally off the shelf, Song Yu Mav, M-A-V-O. So it's got resistor labels, emitter base collector, 2N3906 and 2N3904. This may be a little charge pump or something along those lines. But, okay, it's got 4 connections. Each of these pins on each of these edges runs through the board into the base and solders down onto the dip holes for the look of it. So this has 5 connections. That's really amazing. That's a Toshiba. That's interesting. These two EEPROMs are Toshiba branded, and these two EEPROMs are Intel branded. You know, then you have AMD devices, and these are Motorola. Here's Texas Instruments. TI, more Toshiba. I keep wanting to think that's Univision, but I honestly don't remember. And Univision, isn't that a television channel? I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I don't recognize that logo because I'm pretty sure they went out of business a while ago. Oh, that was interesting. The power connector was loose. Not very well supported. It's only supported in 4 places. Sags a little bit. Yeah, so there we go. So there is a rather remarkable VT110 compatible, apparently. Now I need to try and track down some, I need to track down a 25 to 9 pin serial converter so I can try plugging that thing in and see if it works. So that goes like that. And then this sits on these rails. And then the keyboard connector gets stuck on something. Now it's stuck on the baud board. Oh yeah. Come here, you. There we go. So then that slides in like that. The power connector plugs in. It just kind of plugs in. Oops. And then this keyboard. Oops. What do you call them? That would just be difficult. The keyboard plugs in right here. Oh yeah. And this, the video signal plugs in right there. And let's actually make sure it still works. Promising noises. Yep. We are still good to go. Actually, I wonder if maybe the keyboard will work now. That's interesting. Is the beeping coming from the keyboard? I'm not getting any oh! Something just happened. Let's see. I don't know what I did, but I seem to have found the menu. Data bits 8, stop bits 1, parity none, baud, mode local duplex. Let's see. Clear home. Oh, I just got out of it. Oh, hang on. Okay, line feed's now doing something. Hey, it's working. So now I can just type on the... Oh, that's interesting. So return is CR, line feed is a different key. So return brings you back to the beginning of the line. Let's see, did the arrows work? Yeah, the arrows work. Oops. Cool. So let's see, what did I do to get it into the setup mode? Block. Escape. Print enter. So I think it was a oh, okay. So it's shift. The robot doesn't do anything. I think I just crashed it. And oh, now it's not working again. So enter. It's only got up to F10, which is kind of amusing. Turn it off. Line feed. Somehow I got into the menu again. That's kind of obnoxious. full duplex, parity, data bits 1, stop bits 1, transmit unlimited, DTR, X on, X off, EOM character, act character, auxiliary port, mode off, display, background. How do I change it? Light, refresh rate 60, screensaver on, 25th line on, cursor type, blank block, blank line, cursor type line, cursor type block, insert char, auto scroll on, auto need line off, auto wrap on, edit mode, edit line, keyboard North American, PF keys, click, bell tone on, repeat, edit keys, edit duplex, auto duplex, print key deferred, emulation type, Freedom 110. Oh. Yeah, so it's got quite the complicated menu system. So you can see and enter, let me see, where was the home, escape, how do I get out of the menu? Oh, there we go. That makes a key noise. Oh, so okay, so shift break seems to be reset. Shift clear, shift backspace. Shift setup. Okay. Ah, I see now. So shift setup gets you into the setup and setup gets you out of it. So I believe if I go over here and I set this to edit keys to local duplex, and then I go like that. No. So edit local, I think. Actually, hold on a second. Most ridiculous use of tripod ever. So that seems to work pretty well. Oh, yeah. Freedom 110 setup menu. So shift seems to be the magic key. Oh. Okay, so the block key seems to be what enables editing. So line feed. Yeah, so the block key, which actually has an LED on it, so when you turn it off, it doesn't echo locally, but when you turn it on, it does. So I can also turn on caps lock. It's interesting because new line is a two-step process. You hit return and then you hit line feed. Okay, I think I see what's going on. So when it's in block, I think it's right now it's sending them out to the terminal, so it's not responding. So presumably what I get is the echo if I have echo on whatever I'm connected to. But if I turn it on block mode, the mode down here changes. And then I think it echoes the local. That's interesting. So I'm in caps lock. Caps lock is on. But if I type too fast, I seem to overrun the caps lock buffer. And it can't actually keep up making things capital. So if I go like that, so that's home, clear. Okay, that clears line. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm inserting a line. Okay, so that deletes a line. Okay, that's interesting. So this keyboard is hilarious. So it's got two functions. See, so here is, you know, clear to EOL or EOP. So normally it's clear EOL, but if I hold shift it's clear page. Like here, this is insert line. Normally it's line insert, and if I hold shift it's delete line. You know, insert character, delete character. You know. If I go to shift, yeah, that just deletes one char. So presumably it's sending different control codes. The F keys don't actually do anything. Presumably they're echoed out even in block mode. Clear home, so if I go to shift, yeah, so shift this clears the screen, where normally just homes. Break presumably sends the break character. Backspace takes you back one character, but it doesn't actually erase the character, so you have to then either clear or type over it. What does rub out do? Rub out does nothing. I'm not actually entirely certain what that sends. So you can also, basically this is a, you actually down here you have, this is line 7 char 8. Oh wait, sorry, this is, yeah, line 7 character 8. So you have character number, line number. So if I go up and down in lines, so what is that? So this is a 24 by, oops. So it's a 24 by 80 screen, and I can adjust the brightness. So if I go to shift setup, like there's other things I can do, like I can mode full duplex, local duplex, block send, baud, parity, data bits, stop bits, transmit, limited, unlimited, DTR, off, on, auxiliary. So this is the second series. And set that to light, refresh rate, screensaver. Presumably it turns the screen off if you don't do anything within a certain time. 25th line, cursor type, block, blank, blinking block, I would assume. Yeah. So you got a blinking block, and also you can see the screen's light. And also another thing I've noticed, the screen is oops, a little off to one side, so presumably I could tweak some of those pots to bring this over. Get back into the setup menu. Oh hey look, setup's inverted now. Insert char, auto scroll on, auto new line, off. Auto wrap, I'll turn that off. Edit mode, edit line, page, insert line, insert page. Keyboard type North America. So well anyways. So there is an interesting piece of history. And it's functional too. Cool. So there's a serial terminal, and if with any luck I'll get this rigged into one of my Linux boxes, and maybe I'll try and boot one of my NASs on it. Cool. There you go. Well, here we are. It's working. I've got it hooked up to one of my Linux boxes. It turns out it's basically a gargantuan pain in the ass because it's supposedly a VT110, I think. It's a Freedom 110, which I assume is a VT110 knockoff. But nothing supports VT110 terminals. And it doesn't work with VT102 control codes. So like if I try and just do a plain old LS, the control codes are not escaped, and it always puts it on this line because it's misinterpreting some of the control codes. So like if I go up one directory and then do ls again, same thing. You know, so it's now see, it overrode. There's only one folder there, but it overrode and it didn't clear anything. Clear has no idea what it's doing. Surprisingly enough, dir is apparently available on Linux. For the most part, it kind of works. The arrow keys don't really work. I can't actually control C programs. Like if I was trying to run watch earlier, because the only thing that's really interesting right now, oops, I got it, oops. Is watching it try and rebuild the RAID array I have this thing on, and As you can see, well, one, control code's freaking and shit out, and two, you know, I've got a RAID rebuilding which is 320 minutes left, and it's been running for 3 days. But the issue is, like, I was running watch and I couldn't control C out of it. So what I had to do is, over on, you know, I'm connected over NX here, so I actually have to go in and use PS and kill the watch command from another terminal on the same computer. You know, PS dash, you know, dash capital A grep watch, and then you kill it by the PID. It also turns out it's an absolute fucking nightmare to figure out how to start a functioning serial terminal on a Linux computer that's already running. Like, you can reconfigure grub and some other things, but you just use Getty, but nobody seems to bother doing that because everyone's either wanting to redo something, but because the RAID array is rebuilding, I can't turn it off. So I can't try and, you know, enable a serial console by rebooting. So, yeah, anyways, I don't know what I'm going to do with it because it's so ghastly yellow and useless, but it amused the hell out of me, just getting it working. I might keep it around just because a serial terminal is always a nice thing to have for, you know, instruments with embedded serial, but I wish it had a better, I wish it supported like VT100 or VT102 command codes, because then I could actually turn those on in Linux and use it for that, whereas right now I'm kind of stuck with, it supports a couple terminals. The LSI ADM was, like, I think the first serial terminal released on the market. It's a really old. A bunch of terminals. Linux doesn't know what any of these are. They seem to predate, as far as I can tell. You know, again, this is just me dorking around on Google, but it seems like everything it supports is old. So, you know, or not configured. Like, if I try and export VT110, it doesn't know what a VT110 is, so I guess, you know, presumably supported only by custom varieties of Linux or something along those lines. Anyways, it amuses me, and it's running. It actually turns out that the fastest baud rate it'll do is 1920 baud, but it will do 110, which I guess should bait it pretty well. I've turned on the beep for keys just because it's obnoxious and even more hilariously annoying. This is funny too. So, bright screen. So I'm trying to type with one hand. So it has an invert the screen function, but it only works for certain sections. Yeah, so there you go. A little bit of running history sitting on my bench. I had to make a homemade null modem cable to get it connected. But yeah, it works pretty well. I mean, for what it does, which is terrible. One thing that I could do if I wanted to is some of those potentiometers in the monitor casing would probably center the display rectangle, if you will, but don't think I care.